Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping held talks in Beijing this week and agreed to deepen military cooperation despite U.S. warnings. Xi Jinping and Putin promised a new era of relations between China and Russia and a strengthening of military ties. The two presidents said they would stand firm in the face of a hostile America. The most important result of the meeting was an agreement between Moscow and Beijing to improve financial infrastructure for the uninterrupted functioning of payments between Russian economic entities. Xi Jinping renewed a call for a peace deal to end the war in Ukraine. Both sides agree that a political settlement of the Ukraine crisis is the correct direction. The results of the meeting and negotiations reflect China's immense leverage over Russia. The concrete new cooperation agreements were relatively insignificant, the most notable being a unified concept over a disputed island. The meeting showcased Russia has allies in an environment where Russia is under international sanctions. Hundreds of French police arrived in New Caledonia, a French territory in the Pacific Ocean, after France declared a state of emergency following days of violent protests. Clashes began after France's government approved a bill allowing more French citizens on the island to vote. French lawmakers discussed a constitutional reform that would extend voting rights to some 25,000 long-term residents. The proposal outraged the indigenous Kanak population, who want independence from France and fear that the reform will dilute their vote in favor of pro-French Europeans. New Caledonia has a population of just over 300,000 people and lies between Australia and Fiji and is one of France's biggest overseas territories. The territory is a prolific nickel producer and a distant base for the French Navy, forming a key part of France's claim as a Pacific power. However, the indigenous Kanak people have long resented French rule and say allowing French incomers to vote would hamper their chances of gaining independence. France, which has increasingly lost influence in its former colonies in Africa, sees maintaining a stronghold in New Caledonia and in other overseas territories in the Indo-Pacific region as a key part of its larger vision to maintain a sphere of influence. Billionaire investor Ray Dalio believes the chances of a second American Civil War stand better than 1 out of 3 and is urging investors to move their assets out of the country. Dalio, who founded the world's largest hedge fund Bridgewater Associates before relinquishing control in 2022, believes this year's U.S. presidential election is the most important one of his lifetime and will serve as a litmus test that determines whether risks spiral out of control. Dalio believes due to an acceleration of political polarization, Americans will move to different states that are more aligned with what they want, and one in which people wouldn't follow the decisions and direction of federal authorities. Dalio believes investors should move some of their money to foreign markets because the U.S. government's rising debt levels may hit treasury bonds, with billionaires now worried about America's future. America's challenges are piling up, and the U.S. is looking more and more like the sick man of the world.